The Hidden Will in Silicon Valley. The call came at 7:12 a.m., just as I was pouring my second cup of coffee in the quiet of our Palo Alto home. The number was unfamiliar, but the voice on the other end was urgent, almost conspiratorial. "Mrs. Margaret Hensley, this is Victor Lang, CEO of Nexitech. Your husband, Richard, worked for me. I need you to come to my office immediately. Don't tell your daughter Claire or her husband, Brandon. You might be in danger." My hand froze on the coffee pot. Richard had died of a stroke 6 days ago, or so I thought. I'd stood at his graveside in the rolling hills of Alta Mesa Memorial Park, watching Claire and Brandon handle every detail with a precision that left me feeling like a guest at my own husband's funeral. I was 70 years old. Not frail, but Claire had taken to calling me Mommy in that syrupy tone, as if I were a child who needed coddling. "Just rest, Mommy," she'd said at the wake, her manicured hand patting mine while Brandon nodded solemnly. "We'll take care of everything." Their concern had felt suffocating, but I was too numb from grief to question it. Richard and I had been married for 47 years. One morning, he was debugging code in his home office, muttering about Nexitech's latest AI project. The next, I found him slumped over his desk, his glasses askew. The doctor said it was sudden, massive. I believed them. I had to. But Victor's call cracked that belief wide open. I dressed quickly, choosing the emerald green blazer Richard always said made my eyes sparkle. Claire called as I slipped on my shoes. "Mommy, where are you going? You shouldn't be driving alone." Her voice was sharp with worry, or something else. "I'm fine, Claire," I said, gripping the phone. "Just running to the bank." A lie, but it came easily. "Brandon can drive you." "I'm fine," I repeated, and hung up before she could argue. Nexitech's headquarters loomed in the heart of San Jose, a sleek glass fortress reflecting the California sun. The receptionist ushered me to the 30th floor, where Victor Lang's office overlooked a sea of tech campuses. Victor was in his late 50s, with a tailored suit and the kind of calm authority that came from running a billion-dollar company. He stood as I entered, his eyes kind but grave. "Margaret, thank you for coming. Sit, please." I sank into a leather chair, my heart pounding. "What's this about, Mr. Lang?" "Call me Victor." He opened a drawer and pulled out a thick folder, placing it on the desk like a sacred relic. 6 months ago, Richard came to me with concerns, serious ones, about Claire and Brandon. My stomach twisted. My daughter? He suspected they were trying to manipulate him into changing his will and gaining control of your assets, your Palo Alto home, his Nexitech stock options, the retirement accounts. He opened the folder, revealing pages of Richard's meticulous handwriting, notes, dates, transcribed conversations. He documented everything. I shook my head, unable to process. Claire wouldn't. She's my daughter. Richard didn't want to believe it either, Victor said gently, but he noticed patterns. Claire and Brandon visited when you were at book club or the senior center. They'd push him to sign documents, power of attorney, trust amendments, saying it was to protect you if he died. He refused and they got aggressive. I flipped through the pages. One was a photocopy of a legal document, Richard's signature started but scratched out. It would have given Claire full control over our finances and my medical decisions. Another page listed dates. March 12th, Claire said mom's forgetting things, needs a caregiver, suggested memory care facility. My blood ran cold. I wasn't forgetting. I'd misplaced my reading glasses once, and Claire had made it sound like I was losing my mind. "Why didn't he tell me?" I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "He wanted to be sure," Victor said. "He hired a private investigator. The evidence is damning." He slid a photo across the desk. Claire and Brandon at a Menlo Park cafe, meeting with a man in a cheap suit. That's a lawyer they hired to draft papers declaring you incompetent. The door burst open before I could respond. Claire and Brandon stood there, their faces a mix of shock and fury. "Mommy!" Claire gasped, rushing toward me. "What are you doing here? We were so worried." Brandon's eyes darted to the folder. "Mrs. Hensley, you shouldn't be stressing yourself with business matters." Victor stood, his voice like steel. "This is a private meeting. Please leave." Claire ignored him, grabbing my hand. "Mommy, you're confused. Let's go home." Her grip was too tight, her smile too perfect. I pulled away, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm not confused, Claire. I'm here because Victor called me about Dad." Brandon's face paled. "Dad's dead, Margaret. You're grieving. This man is taking advantage." "Enough," Victor snapped. He pressed a button on his desk, and a side door opened. My breath caught. Richard. My Richard, alive? His silver hair unmistakable, stepped into the room. Claire screamed. Brandon swore. I nearly collapsed, but Richard was at my side in an instant, his arms around me, warm and real. "Margaret, my love, I'm so sorry." "How?" I gasped, touching his face, his shoulders, proving he wasn't a ghost. Richard's eyes hardened as he faced Claire and Brandon. "I faked my death to protect you, Margaret, from them." He gestured to the folder. "They were going to declare you senile, sell the house, cash out my stocks. They've been planning it for a year." Claire's mask cracked. "This is insane. Daddy, you're alive? This is a crime." "You're right," Richard said calmly. "Faking a death certificate is illegal. I'll face the consequences, but first, you'll face yours." He pulled out a USB drive. "This has everything. Emails, texts, recordings, Claire bragging about flipping the house for millions, Brandon's crypto scams racking up $200,000 in losses." Brandon lunged for the drive, but Victor blocked him. "Security's outside. Don't make this worse." I stared at my daughter, the girl I'd sung to sleep, whose college graduation I'd cried at. "Claire, is this true?" She hesitated, then deflected. "Mommy, we were struggling. The startup failed. We just needed help." "Help?" Richard's voice was ice. "You opened credit cards in Margaret's name, $15,000 in debt. You forged medical reports claiming she had dementia. You met with a facility in Los Gatos to lock her up." I remembered the memory tests Claire insisted I take, how she'd sigh when I forgot a minor detail, the time my car keys vanished, only to turn up in her purse, the doctor's visit she scheduled where I was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment. It was all a lie. "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. "I'm your mother." Claire's eyes flashed with something ugly. "You and Dad hoarded everything. That house is worth $3 million. You don't even use it. Brandon and I are drowning." Brandon nodded, emboldened. "It was going to be ours eventually. We just moved things along." Richard pulled out more photos. Brandon at a Vegas poker table. Claire at a Rodeo Drive jeweler. $30,000 in one night, Brandon? A $7,000 necklace, Claire, charged to Mom's card? The room spun. Victor handed me water. "Margaret, there's more." They were rushing the timeline. 3 weeks ago, Brandon told Claire, "If Dad's gone, we can move faster." That's when I helped Richard stage the stroke. Claire sobbed, but it was theatrical, hollow. "We didn't mean harm. We love you, Mommy." "Love doesn't steal," I said, my voice strong for the first time in months. "Love doesn't gaslight. Leave, now." They hesitated, but security escorted them out. Richard held me as I cried, not for him, but for the daughter I'd lost. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Richard faced fines for the falsified death certificate, but the judge, seeing the evidence of Claire and Brandon's fraud, was lenient. Claire and Brandon were charged with identity theft and conspiracy. Their startup collapsed. Their marriage crumbled. Last I heard, Claire was working retail in Sacramento, Brandon in debt counseling. We sold the Palo Alto house. Too many memories, good and bad. With the proceeds, we bought a vineyard cottage in Napa Valley, surrounded by rolling hills and grapevines. Richard tended the vines. I joined a local book club, made friends who didn't pity me. At 70, I felt alive, unburdened. One evening, as we sipped wine on the porch, a letter arrived from Claire. "Mom, I'm sorry. Therapy's helping me see how wrong I was. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm trying to change." I read it twice, then folded it away. "What do you think?" Richard asked. "She's my daughter, but I'm done sacrificing my peace for her mistakes. If she proves she's changed, maybe. For now,